All right, now we're going to cover functions. Now, functions are helpful because they pretty much allow you to reuse code over and over again without having to populate your existing code with more code. It'll make more sense as I go along. So right here in this tab Sherwood, I have a bunch of baseball teams right here in this column A. And so here's what we're going to do. We're going to write a code to calculate how many times each team shows up in this list. So let's call this sub team calc. And we're going to do a loop to loop through this list. A equals 1 starting at A1, and B, very important here, you want to learn this, memorize this by heart. B equals sheets Sherwood dot cells rows dot count A dot end XL, not one, XL up dot row. And what B is going to calculate is how far down in column A it goes. So it's going to return the number 25 because we have 25 rows. But in the sheet Sherwood, column A, it counts how many rows there are until it reaches the end, which is the Padres at row 25. Very important for looping through lists dynamically when you don't have the exact number when it could change. So we're going to do a for loop for A equals A to B, next A. And we're going to calculate how many times each team in the list shows up, right? So let's do this. Team, variable team equals sheets Sherwood dot cells A1 dot value. So the variable A, how far down over 1, column 1 dot value is going to be the variable team. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's just do sheets Sherwood dot cells A4 dot value equals team for the initial iteration of this loop. What happens if we run team calc? Well, it's just going to copy and paste this over with our loop. So what if we only wanted to print each team once every time they show up, and next to that a number of how many times they show up? Well, that's where a function will come into play. You don't have to do a function. I just feel like it makes it cleaner and easier. So we're going to do this. Let's clear out this column and let's do this. Function team find, and then T as string. So a function allows you to pass variables or values to the function that it can use within that function. But whenever you do that, you have to declare the variable in the initial sub that you call the function in. So we need to do team dim designate team as string. That way when we send team to this function, it knows that it's a string and it matches. See, as string here, as string here. So we're going to do this. R equals team find team, right? So we're passing the variable team to our function team find right here. And a function has to return a value. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to put everything in row D. And so let's do this. A equals 1. And then we can copy and paste this. B equals sheet Sherwood.cells rows.count D. So we're going to go to the bottom of D, right? And then we're going to do this. C equals 0. For A equals A to B, I'll tell you what C means in a bit. Next A, we're going to do this. Checker equals sheets Sherwood.cells A4, remember column D, 4 over dot value. So checker is, we're going to check what is in row D, column D. If, we're going to use an if statement here, if checker, so if the team that it's searching for here in column D equals the team we pass through the function equals T, remember T, we define variable T as the variable we pass through the function right here. We can call it team just to make it easier though. If checker equals team, then C equals A. So A meaning the row that it's currently on. And then we do this, team find equals C and if, right? So basically the function team find passes the row that it found the team on in column D back to the sub up here. If it doesn't find anything when we do team find equals C, it's still going to be 0, right? Exit function, just so we don't have to keep running the loop. If it finds the team, if not, then, so we're passing the row, right? So R is the row that the team is on, so the row that the Orioles were on. So if r equals 0, then let's create a new value up here. C equals 0, then C equals C plus 1, sheets Sherwood dot cells C4 dot value equals team. Else sheets Sherwood dot cells R4 dot value equals team. And if. So I'm going to show you what this function does right now. Hopefully it works and we have no errors. So function team calc. Here we go. It only printed each team once. See how the Braves are in here 3 times? Well, it only printed the Braves on here once because it searched column D for the Braves, and if it found the Braves, it didn't need to print it again. But if it didn't, then it increased C, which is our row calculator, our row incrementer, and increased by 1 and printed the team on the next line. And that's how the function works. It pretty much just searches column D for the team and returns the row number it's on. If it's not found, meaning the team hasn't been printed yet, it returns 0, and then we can increase our C, which is our row counter, plus 1. So what we're going to do here is in column E, we're going to calculate how many times each team shows up. And this is pretty simple. We'll do sheets Sherwood dot cells C5 dot value equals 1 if R equals 0, meaning the team wasn't found. Otherwise, we'll do sheets Sherwood dot cells R5 dot value equals sheets Sherwood. Let me move this over. Dot cells R5 dot value plus 1. Pretty simple. We're just going to take the value in the 5th column next to the team name and increment it by 1 if it's already there. Otherwise, we're going to put 1. So when we run the macro team calc, there we go. See, the Braves are in here 3 times. They get the number 3. The A is only in here once. They get 1. So that's how functions work. It allows us to just call one line of code right here instead of cluttering the team calc with all this right here, right? It makes the code easier to read. You don't have to do functions. It just makes it easier to read. Now, like I said, functions return a value. If you wanted to call a function that didn't return anything, you would just do the same thing only with sub team find team as string. And here you don't have to do the team find equals C, right? Sub team find 2, because you're not returning any value. It'll just execute the code for you. So if you're going to do that up here, just for example, you wouldn't have to do that. You would just do team find 2 team, right? No parentheses, no variable storing. Just that's how you would call a sub in the same way as a function without returning a value.